My longtime friend expected me to drop everything for her, scoffing. My problems are always more important than yours. That's what friends are for. When I set boundaries, she screamed. If you were a real friend, you'd put me first. Her smirk faded when I replied. Actually, a real friend respects boundaries, and that's why this friendship is over. I never imagined I'd be sharing my story here, but after everything that's happened, I feel compelled to get this off my chest. I've had a friend, let's call her Sarah, for over 2 decades. We met during our freshman year at New York University. She was the vibrant, outgoing type who could light up any room, while I was more reserved, preferring intimate gatherings over large parties. Despite our differences, we clicked instantly. Our friendship saw us through college parties in Brooklyn, late-night study sessions in Manhattan, and countless coffee dates in quaint little cafes scattered throughout the city. Sarah had always been someone who leaned heavily on her friends during tough times. Over the years, I became her go-to person, late-night phone calls about her tumultuous relationships, helping her move apartments across various boroughs, even lending her money when she was between jobs. I did it all without hesitation because that's what friends do, right? I believed in being there for her, thinking our friendship was built on mutual support. However, things started to change when I faced my own challenges. Last year, I went through a tough divorce. The emotional turmoil was overwhelming, and managing my demanding job in Midtown only added to the stress. During this period, I noticed Sarah was conspicuously absent. No calls, no texts, nothing. It stung, but I brushed it off, thinking she might be busy with her own life. Then, a few months ago, my father fell seriously ill. I was overwhelmed, traveling back and forth between New York and my hometown in Pennsylvania to be with him. One evening, utterly exhausted, I received a call from Sarah. She was in tears, talking about a fallout she had with a coworker. I listened, comforted her, and offered advice, all while sitting in the hospital waiting room. Not once did she ask how I was doing or why I sounded so tired. The breaking point came last month. I had planned a weekend to finally relax, a rare luxury these days. Sarah called, saying she had broken up with her boyfriend and needed me to come over immediately. I apologized and told her I couldn't make it, explaining that I had set aside this time for some much-needed self-care. She scoffed and said, "My problems are always more important than yours. That's what friends are for." I was taken aback. I calmly replied, "Actually, a real friend respects boundaries, and that's why this friendship is over." She was silent for a moment before yelling, "If you were a real friend, you'd put me first." I didn't respond. I simply hung up. Since then, I've felt a mix of relief and sadness. Letting go of a long-term friendship is never easy, but I realize that friendship should be a two-way street. It's not about keeping score, but there should be mutual respect and understanding. For too long, I had been the giver, and when I needed support, Sarah was nowhere to be found. I've started focusing more on relationships that are reciprocal and nurturing. It's been a journey, but I'm learning that setting boundaries is essential, even with those we've known for years. A few weeks passed after that last call with Sarah. I expected her to at least try and reach out, maybe apologize, maybe not. But she didn't. I didn't hear a word from her. Not a text, not an email, not even one of those passive-aggressive social media posts she used to make when she was upset at someone. At first, it was peaceful. I felt lighter. I had time to focus on myself, care for my dad, and slowly put my life back together after the divorce. My therapist kept saying I needed to create space to heal, and cutting Sarah off gave me exactly that. But then the messages started. Not from Sarah. From mutual friends. At first, they were just confused. "Hey, did something happen between you and Sarah? She said you've been acting weird lately. She misses you, but says you've been distant." I ignored the first few. I figured she might be spinning the story a bit to save face, whatever. I didn't care. Then one day, my phone blew up while I was at work. I had over a dozen missed calls and texts. One message from a close friend stood out. "Did you really call Sarah a parasite? What the hell is going on?" I froze. I never said that. I opened my group chats and saw it. Sarah had gone on a rant in our shared group thread. Long post. Full drama. Said I abandoned her in her worst moment. Claimed I told her she was selfish, toxic, and a parasite. She wrote that after 2 decades of pouring into this friendship. I discarded her like trash. And people were reacting. Liking her post. Sending her hearts. Some even commented things like, "So sorry you're going through this, you deserve better." Others tagged me, asking for my side. A few went silent, clearly choosing not to get involved. I felt sick. Not because she was mad at me, I could deal with that. But the fact she was rewriting the story in front of people who knew both of us. People I thought were neutral, even loyal. That night I called her. Straight up, no texts. She picked up. No. Hello? You're really going to lie like that? I said, trying to stay calm. It's not a lie. She snapped. You basically called me a burden. You said your time is more valuable than my mental health. I never said that. Well, that's what it felt like. She didn't even sound sad. She sounded angry. Entitled. You said friendship is about respect. I said. Then you turned around and dragged me in front of everyone. How is that respectful? Because I needed to speak my truth. You hurt me. No, Sarah. I set a boundary. You didn't like it. There was silence on the line. Then she laughed. Not a funny laugh. The kind someone does when they feel like they've won something. You think those people in our group are your friends? She said. You've been so mysterious lately, playing the victim card. People are tired of it. I just said what they're all thinking. That hit different. I hung up again. No more words. Just ended the call. I didn't respond to the group. I removed myself completely. Deleted the thread. Blocked her. And a few others too, the ones who kept texting me like I owed them explanations. But it didn't stop there. A week later, someone forwarded me a TikTok. Her face popped up in the first frame. She was telling a story. Dramatic music, sad eyes, shaking her head like she was about to cry. Let me tell you about the friend who ghosted me after I gave them 20 years of loyalty. She said. I felt a tightness in my chest. She didn't use my name. But the timeline, the details, anyone who knew us would know exactly who she was talking about. She even mentioned my father's illness, twisting it to sound like I was using it as an excuse to avoid hard conversations. It went viral. Not millions, but enough. Over 300,000 views. Comments flooded in. People calling me a narcissist. A fake friend. A coward. And she replied to almost every comment. Feeding it. Building it. I couldn't sleep that night. I wanted to defend myself. I wanted to make a video of my own. Show receipts. Screenshot texts. But then I'd be just like her. Turning a private fallout into some kind of public circus. So instead, I documented everything. Every post. Every comment. Every message she sent me before and after the blow-up. I took it all to a lawyer. Just in case. Because now, it wasn't just a friendship drama. It felt like defamation. Like she was using her platform to ruin me. I didn't want revenge. Not in the beginning. But the moment she started affecting my professional life, that's when I decided to protect myself. A week after the video went viral, my boss called me into his office. He closed the door. I got an anonymous email. He said. It had a link to a video, said you were emotionally abusive. That you neglected your friend while she was suicidal. My stomach dropped. That's not true, I said quickly. That video is about me, but it's not what it looks like. I have proof. He raised a hand. I believe you. But we're a public-facing company. Our image matters. Just be aware. If this escalates, we'll need to bring HR into it. So she wasn't done. She had escalated it. And now, I was ready to escalate it too. Not with rage. Not with yelling. But with quiet, legal precision. She forgot I know her secrets too. The kind she wouldn't dare say online. The kind that could wreck her little influencer persona. But I didn't want to stoop to that level. Unless I had to. I wasn't going to let her destroy my life. But I wasn't going to play dirty, unless she left me no choice. And if she kept pushing, well, then she'd finally learn what real consequences look like. A few days after the meeting with my boss, I started noticing weird things. Not just the passive-aggressive online posts or anonymous emails. Those had almost become background noise. It was real life now. One morning, I walked out to my car and found a sticky note under the windshield wiper. It said, "Fake friends get what they deserve." That was it. No signature. No clue who left it. My stomach twisted. I looked around the parking lot, half expecting to see someone watching. I live in a secured apartment complex in Queens. Gated entry. Cameras. I asked the building manager to check the footage. They found nothing. Whoever did it must have known the blind spots. It wasn't a huge threat, but it was enough to mess with my head. Then the prank calls started. Random numbers, always in the middle of the night. Just silence on the other end. Sometimes laughter. Once someone whispered, "You ruined her life." I changed my number. For a while, things went quiet again. Until I ran into her. I was at Trader Joe's in Brooklyn, of all places, just grabbing stuff for the week. I turned the corner of the frozen aisle and there she was, wearing oversized sunglasses and fake tears in her eyes, but she spotted me instantly. We locked eyes. She looked surprised. Then angry. I didn't say anything. I just kept walking. I was done with her drama. As I checked out, the cashier seemed awkward. Finally, he asked, "Hey, is your name Logan?" I nodded, confused. He looked uncomfortable. "That woman back there? She told the line you hit her. Said you were a narcissist and stalked her." I felt the blood drain from my face. I walked straight to the manager's office and asked for the security footage. Told them what she said. I didn't care how it looked, I needed this on record. To their credit, they didn't brush me off. The manager said they'd check and email me if there was any incident recorded. 2 days later, I got the footage. It showed me calmly grabbing groceries, avoiding her completely. No confrontation. No contact. I filed a police report, not to press charges yet, but just to start a paper trail. Because she was escalating again. And I wasn't sure where her line was anymore. Then the job stuff started again. One of our major clients, big name, top 5 ad account, suddenly pulled out of a deal. The rep cited reputation concerns. We'd been negotiating for 3 months. It would have been a 6-figure campaign. My boss called me again. This time HR was there. They sat me down, told me this wasn't a warning. But they needed to understand if anything from my personal life was creating a risk for the brand. They were being polite, but I saw the writing on the wall. I spent the whole night piecing together every single thing she'd said about me online. I documented all the timelines, screenshots, TikTok transcripts, and the call logs. I printed it all out. I made a packet. 40 pages. But here's where things got strange. While I was gathering screenshots, I found something I hadn't seen before. A comment thread, buried under one of her early TikTok videos. Someone asked if she had proof I said those things. She replied, "I have voice notes. He doesn't know I recorded them. I never left voice notes." And then someone replied to her, "DM me. I can help you clean them up." I checked the user. A random handle. But when I cross-referenced it with another profile, I found out it was her ex-boyfriend's cousin. A guy I knew she hated. Suddenly it made sense. She was building a narrative. But worse, she was collaborating with someone who had access to old messages, maybe even my voice from shared group chats. She was fabricating a case. And that's when I realized I had to go further. I contacted a digital forensics specialist. Told him the story. Sent him the video clips and the user data. He agreed to investigate and track the metadata of her posts, timestamps, edits, IPs if possible. 2 weeks later, he came back with something wild. One of the voice recordings she posted in a private Discord, me supposedly yelling at her, calling her a burden, was a fake. An AI voice clone. Trained on audio clips pulled from our old podcast we used to co-host. One we abandoned during the pandemic. She used that to make it sound like I was emotionally abusive. And she sent that to my clients. That was enough for a defamation case. But I didn't pull the trigger yet. Because something else happened first. One of our old mutuals, let's call her Becca, reached out to me on a new number. She said, "I think you need to see this," and forwarded me a screenshot of a private group chat Sarah ran. It was full of people I knew. Friends I used to trust. In the messages, Sarah was talking strategy. How she'd take me down slowly. How she'd plant stories. Make it look like a pattern. Make me unemployable in my field. She even joked about me having a mental breakdown on Zoom. Becca said she felt sick. Said she didn't realize how far it had gone until Sarah started recruiting people to write fake testimonials. People who never even met me were writing things like, "He gaslit me during a project," and "He made me cry in meetings." It was all fake. All of it. Sarah wasn't just trying to ruin a friendship. She was trying to destroy my life. My reputation. My mental health. My future. I knew now, this wasn't just a feud. This was a war. And I had only just begun fighting back. Becca agreed to meet me in person. She had printouts of the group chat, screenshots, even voice messages Sarah had sent, bragging about how easy it was to manipulate people. She showed me everything. There was no ambiguity anymore. This wasn't just obsession. This was cruelty with purpose. What made it worse? I saw names in that group chat I never expected, people I'd stood beside at weddings, shared birthdays with, supported through breakups and layoffs. Laughing emojis next to messages like, "Let's make him a cautionary tale." I felt numb. We decided to confront her. Not through texts. Not online. In person. There was a panel event coming up at a downtown co-working space. Creative professionals, small biz owners, influencers. Sarah was a guest speaker. Topic: building authentic communities. The irony could have knocked a person out cold. I got in early. Sat in the back. Becca came too. She wasn't nervous. She was furious. She said she'd back me up if anything went down. Sarah spotted me the second she walked in. Her entire face shifted. From polished and proud to visibly rattled. She turned pale. Eyes darted toward the exits like she was planning a fast getaway. But she stayed. Too many eyes on her now. She began her talk. Fake laugh. Tight smile. Lots of words about real friendship, support networks, mental health. All while avoiding looking in my direction. I sat silent, arms crossed. And then, during Q&A, I stood up. People turned to look. Quick question, I said. How do you define authenticity when you orchestrate smear campaigns against former friends? Gasps. Whispers. Sarah froze. I don't understand the question. Becca stood too. Want us to play the audio? Or maybe pass out the screenshots? People pulled out phones. It happened fast. Becca held up one of the screenshots of Sarah bragging about fabricating stories about me. Some attendees started filming. Others looked horrified. One woman whispered, "That's not real, right?" Sarah's face crumbled. She tried to regain control. "This is harassment. He's bitter because he lost friends, because you lied to them." I snapped. "Because you deepfaked my voice and sent it to clients." That did it. The panel moderator stepped in. Asked Sarah quietly if what we were saying was true. She didn't deny it. She just kept saying, "This isn't the place. We can talk later." But people weren't having it. A woman in the front row stood up and said, "I followed you online for years. If this is true, you're dangerous." Others started leaving. It unraveled right there. Public, raw, and ugly. Sarah finally screamed, "You were never there for me. You made me feel worthless." There it was. The real reason? This wasn't about me being toxic. This was about rejection. About me walking away. I stared at her. You needed me to be the bad guy so you could stay the victim. You couldn't stand the idea that someone finally said enough. Security escorted her out. Some people apologized to me quietly on the way out. Others didn't know what to say. One guy came over, shook my hand, and said, "Took guts. You did the right thing." The room emptied. The event ended in chaos. I stood outside, leaning against the wall, breathing like I'd just run a marathon. Becca joined me. "That was insane," she said. "You okay?" "I don't know," I said honestly. But I needed that. Over the next few weeks, Sarah's online presence fell apart. Her followers dropped. People started asking questions she couldn't answer. Brands backed away. The damage was done. She sent me an email. Just one line. "I'm sorry it got that far." No explanation. No real ownership. Just a vague attempt to soften her fall. I didn't reply. But the fallout stayed with me. I struggled with trust. Questioned every interaction. For a while, I found myself scanning texts for hidden digs or setups, waiting for people to twist my words. I started therapy again, this time for trauma, not just grief or divorce. Some friendships survived. The ones who believed me. The ones who reached out quietly during the chaos, just to say, "I'm with you." Others disappeared, choosing to pretend nothing happened. Maybe out of guilt. Maybe out of cowardice. I let them go. I don't know if Sarah ever truly realized how deeply she hurt me. I doubt it. People like her usually remember how you made them feel, not what they did to deserve the fallout. But I do know this, she taught me something I'll never forget. Boundaries don't make you cold. They keep you sane. Standing up for yourself doesn't make you cruel. It makes you free. And sometimes, losing people, no matter how long they've been in your life, is the beginning of finally finding peace. I'm not sure what kind of friend I'll be in the future. More careful, definitely. Maybe slower to trust. But not bitter. Hopeful. Just a little guarded. But hopeful still.